And a shocking move, Genesis electrifies their GV70. Okay, it's not shocking, we all knew it was coming. I'm Jay, Steph's on vacation, and this is Modern Motoring. Let's start with the driving impressions for the 2023 Genesis Electrified GV70. So if the battery size sounds familiar at 77.4 kilowatts, you'd be absolutely on point because it's also in the GV60 and the Ioniq 5. Horsepower comes in at 429, torque comes in at 516 pound-feet. Just like the GV60, there is a boost button, but instead of it being bright yellow and on the side of the wheel, it's the word boost at the bottom spoke of the steering wheel. And that gets you, for 10 glorious seconds, an extra 54 horsepower for a total of 483. I'm not saying a gasoline vehicle drives the same as an electric vehicle, rather because it's pretty much the same size between the gasoline and the electric. You have a similar feel, not exactly the same, so it handles really, really well. And here on the only trim you can get for the electrified Genesis G70, it's the top trim. It comes with all-wheel drive, comes with massive 20-inch wheels, and cornering and handling is done really well. And yeah, it's taller, but you never get that tippy feeling, even going on 90-degree turns as you do on some parts of the highway. I'm not going to bore you with how fun this is to drive or how quick it is and how brisk it is and all the things you know for electric vehicles. Instead, what I'll go to is one of the things that I wish all manufacturers did outside of Genesis, Hyundai, Kia. I wish everybody had different regen levels and the option for one-pedal driving. And the G70 has it here, and it's on the pedals, and you can go down to, up to one pedal. You get a little ding there, iPedal on, and iPedal's off now, and you get level 3, level 2, level 1. And then if you like free coasting like I do, you just go down to 0. Since we're on the road, let's talk about the important stuff, which is range and charging times. So Genesis says this gets up to 383 kilometers of all-electric range, and it depends on how you drive, if you're doing your regen paddles, if you have a lot of weight in the vehicle, but that's their number. Charging times on a level 2, it's 7 hours and 20 minutes to go all the way up to 100%. There's 2 options for level 3. You can go with the lower 50 kilowatts, and the 10 to 80 recharge is done in 73 minutes. If you can find a functional 350 kilowatt charger, that same 10 to 80% recharge is done in only 18 minutes. 350s are hard to come by. The 50s are a lot more common, but if you have an EV, you'll have a level 2 charger at home, and that 7 hours and 20 minutes bringing you to full is pretty good. It's July when I'm doing this test, so there's been no inclement weather. There's no rain or sleet or snow or anything, so I can't comment specifically on the all-wheel drive functionality here. What I can see is that in the winter months, I had a GV60 all through the province of Quebec, and it snowed and it snowed and it snowed, and it performed extremely well. So I like to think that the GV70 will perform similarly to the GV60 as far as its all-wheel drive system. And I have driven the gasoline GV70 in not the greatest weather, and it handled well. So that's my way of saying, based off other Genesis products, I feel this will handle well. With the electrified GV70 having only one trim, you get absolutely everything, from the blind view monitor to the upgraded audio system to the 3D, which is super cool, digital instrument cluster to the large infotainment. It's a really, really premium space here, and there's just the height of luxury all throughout. All the panels are made to fit perfectly. There's no slight, oh, this is off a touch or that's off a touch. It's the small textures like the speaker covers. You know, I can tell it's graded, but you know, you can barely hear it. And speaking of barely hearing it, you can barely hear any noise bleeding in from the outside. And yes, I know it's an EV. There's no motor, there's no exhaust, there's no loud bits to it. But Genesis has really done a great job in isolating a lot of the outside noise from coming in. And if you do find it too quiet, Genesis does have a feature where you can get some not fake, artificial, manufactured engine sounds pumped in through the speakers. This kind of blends in with the drive side and kind of on the interior side. So I'll just put it here. Let's talk about the drive modes, but first let's talk about where you select them. It is way up at the top. It is not a concern of hitting something accidentally instead of hitting a drive mode. Again, it's way up at the top of the little center console. So you have Eco, Comfort, Sport, and My Mode, and you push down on the little rectangle, and that takes you to your terrain. It's snow, mud, and sand. I'm not sure how many of those conditions EV drivers of the GV70 will get into, but it's good to know that there are options here. I love that they have a dial for their infotainment system, and I love that it's touchscreen, because giving drivers the option of what they want to do and how they want to control it, always a smart thing. Rear seats are pretty comfortable, as they should be for a vehicle that's approaching 6 figures. A quick touch on cargo space, so you put everything down and you get 1,601 liters. If you have people in the rear seats, but you still need to get stuff in there, it goes by just about half to 813 liters. Very usable space, very functional space. I like how Genesis hasn't really tinkered a lot with the gasoline GV70 into making what it is here. There's very minimal differences. You know, the big one being that there's no engine because it's an EV, but on the inside you'd be hard pressed to tell, you know, aside from the little letters EV start stop on the start stop button, as opposed to it just being start stop on the gasoline version, and a couple of EV screens. I truly applaud Genesis for doing it as what I feel being the smart way. Not all drivers want something completely wild and different engineered from the ground up. I feel that a lot of drivers want familiarity, and I think that's due to the infancy of the EV market. We're still really new into this, considering the auto industry is over a century old. And, you know, yeah, there was that Chevrolet EV1, but as far as mainstream EVs go, you know, we're barely a decade in. So I think it's smart to ease customers and clients into the EV world by giving them something familiar. Let the wild and crazy stuff come afterward, because you know it's going to come out there, just like the way the Ioniq 5 is completely unlike anything. But that was a brand new vehicle that didn't replace anything, and that wasn't a lateral shift. Same thing with Kia's EV6. Having a GV70 gasoline version and having a GV70 electric version being nearly identical, financially it's smart. Design-wise, it's even smarter. As far as convincing drivers to come into the EV world for Genesis, or even having them stay as Genesis customers with their new GV70 EV, it's a smart move, and it's done really, really well here. Quick touch on the outside. There's minimal differences between the gasoline and electric version. There are no tailpipes because there are no emissions, and it still has a lot of the same characteristics. It's got that nice clamshell hood, nice clean designs to it. The twin bars as far as the taillights and the headlights go. The silhouette is so sharp, and I've always liked the G70 and the GV70 as well. I think the G70 was the most beautiful car they've made, over the G80, over the G90. That was beautiful, and the GV70 was just an iteration of that, and it looks just absolutely gorgeous. Now, the charging port is up front. I would have liked to have seen it in the rear so that you back into your parking spot to get your vehicle charged in public. No matter though. And yes, the charging port door is heated because we are in Canada and it gets really, really cold here. And the last thing you want is to have a frozen door and not being able to charge your vehicle. The one change I'd make is smaller wheels, because 20s look good. They fill out the wheel wells beautifully. The problem with that is bigger wheels, heavier rims, more weight, and the more weight you have, the less range you have. So I think Genesis could have eclipsed the 400 kilometer range mark if they had gone down to 19, maybe even 18-inch rims. Let's touch on pricing, competition, and then that'll wrap the video up. So $84,150, and it's Genesis's all-in price. So you add your tax, and that's pretty much it. It's a little steep on the pricing side for now because there's only one trim. They're going to bring a lower trim in, and I feel that will probably come in, I'm going to say mid-70s, maybe low 70s, but likely mid-70s. Now, as a comparison, the gasoline version of the GV70 starts at $57,500, and that's for the advanced trim at the 2.5 liter engine. The top trim for the Genesis GV70 gasoline is their 3.5 Sport Plus, $77,500. Going top trim to top trim, only trim to top trim, You can have this, the electrified version, for $84,150 with the 429 horse, 516 pound-feet of torque. Same luxuries all the way throughout, similar driving feel, but no emissions. Or you can go $77,500 for the 3.5 Sport Plus trim on the GV70 gasoline side. Difference of only $6,650. So it's a lot closer than you think. And when you're into the $70,000, $75,000, $80,000, $85,000 mark, $6,650 really isn't all that much of a difference. If it was me and I had to pick something for my specific lifestyle right now, it's just me, I don't really do a lot of driving outside of what I do for work, which is driving vehicles, but as a personal vehicle, I would go with the EV. I don't mind the 383 kilometers of range. I live within 20 public charging stations, and I would have a level 2 charger at home. Nothing's wrong with the gasoline version, and the 3.5 liter engine is just so well made, and it goes, and it's quick, and it's agile. But with only a $6,650 difference, I'm going with the EV on this one. As far as competition goes, there's the Cadillac LYRIQ, and it's got over 500 kilometers of range. It's around 70K, but it's only two-wheel drive. The iX is another big competitor, and there's two flavors. The iX50 with 521 kilometers of range goes for 90-ish K. The iX40 goes for 80K, but the big catch here is you lose 200 kilometers of range, almost 200 kilometers of range. It's 322 kilometers in total for the iX40, and again, 521 for the iX50. For $10,000, as a straight comparison, I'm going to compare the iX50 to the GV70. If you have any questions on the 2023 Genesis GV70, let us know in the comments. We are always happy to hear from you, and we'd love for you to join our community. It's a fun place. We read all of our comments, good, bad, and otherwise, and we try and get back to everyone as soon as we possibly can. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.